Benvenuti, benvenute alla ultima conferenza di questa seconda edizione dell'Hiphopcinefest. Siamo in diretta dal cinema L'Aquila di Roma e nel frattempo siamo sempre sintonizzati sul nostro canale ufficiale di YouTube. Questa conferenza appunto cercherà di ripercorrere i passi e i cenni storici del cinema hip hop con ospiti illustri internazionali da diverse parti del mondo e ovviamente anche con la nostra direttrice Giulia Chimp. Quindi senza ulteriori indugi passerei la parola al moderatore di oggi che è Rob Schwartz di HUMAG, che è tra l'altro tra i nostri partner, che modererà la sessione che sarà quindi bilingue, inglese e italiano. Grazie, vi ricordo di continuare a guardare i film su Filmocracy e di donare un piccolo contributo su PayPal per sostenere il cinema indipendente e i progetti. Grazie mille.
Hello. Can you guys hear me? Mic check, mic check. What's the deal? Is this on?
Yeah, no, it's only for the streaming.
Oh, it's for the streaming. My bad. Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Schwartz. I'm from New Jersey. I've been involved with hip hop my entire life. I started off working at Polygram Records and put out Jay-Z's first record. I know artists like Blase, Jerry the Damager, Beanie Man. From there, I started a website in 2001, became one of the biggest hip-hop websites with original video content called whomag.net. 2005, I put the first hip-hop DVD magazine ever, or first hip-hop DVD ever on Netflix, in Blockbuster and Walmart and Target. 2007, I put out the biggest independent hip-hop TV show. Premiered in Europe on Sky TV, 120 million households, and it came back to the U.S. 2010, I launched a music distribution company, HUMAG Distribution. Our first record was KRS-One and Just Ice. That's what got me my deal, and that was 12 years ago. And now we have about 2,000 titles, a Grammy, and multiple #1 Billboard records. 2012, we launched the very first hip-hop network ever on OTT smart TVs called iFame TV. We premiered it on Roku. Now we have 3 networks, iFame TV, HUMAG Multimedia, and Video Vision. We have thousands of music videos from all over the world, movies, TV shows. Personally, my show, HUMAG TV, we interviewed over 3,000 hip-hop artists. All the biggest names in the world have been on my platform. We were the first hip-hop company ever verified on Facebook, the first one verified by YouTube. 2000, there's so much we did. Let's see. Last year, I don't know anyone in NFTs? Anyone know what NFTs are? We're the first music distribution company to ever do NFTs last year with something we did called the Homies, and a lot more. I'm going to show you some quick clips from my HUMAG hip hop document, which won the Pocono Film Festival for Best Hip Hop Documentary. I'm going to show you a little clip from HUMAG TV, just to get you an idea. But I got three requests real quick though. Make sure you guys stay to the end for 3 reasons. Number one, I need everyone here to sign my poster. So when we go back to the US, I can hang this on my wall. Number two, we got giveaways for people who ask questions and participate. And number 3, we definitely got to get a group shot of everybody. All right? So make sure everyone stays to the end. So I'm going to show you 3 little quick clips of HUMAG, get an idea of who we are, what we do, before we start and get into it.
You are watching HUMAG TV. Everybody with force and D's.
It's that little Chico Pitbull, Mr. 305 right here with HUMAG.
What's up, y'all? This is Ron B. And I'm DJ Easy Rock, and we chilling with HUMAG.
This is Sean Ashton. You're watching HUMAG.
This is In Vogue, and you're watching HUMAG TV.
It's your boy Joel Ortiz, Brooklyn Zone in the building. You're watching HUMAG TV. HUMAG.
Yo, what up, this is Sean P. This is HUMAG TV.
Wyclef, HUMAG.net.
This is me, Casey, with HUMAG TV.
Big Sean, good music, man. Shout out to HUMAG.
Yeah, it's your boy Meek Melly, and you're watching HUMAG TV.
This is Stacey Dash, and you're watching HUMAG TV.
This is Jizzle, Wu-Tang is in the building, HUMAG TV.
Hey, yo, what's good, man? Kim Allah, HUMAG, man, you already know.
Fight Dog, formerly of a Top Punk Quest. It's all about that HUMAG TV.
George, Dr. Frankenstein Clinton, saying check out HUMAG.
It's your boy Lil Jon getting crunk on HUMAG TV. HUMAG, 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 HUMAG. All around the world, get recognized.
far as my hip-hop documentary, I got 2 quick trailers.
Hip-hop was something that everybody was waiting for, but they didn't know they was waiting for it.
It's the hip-hop document. It's the Who Mag document. It ain't no stopping what the Bronx got poppin'. Commence the up-rockin'. Legendary DJs, old school's the key phrase. Lace up your BKs, take it to the PJs. But never mind rap, whoever was behind that. Sedgwick can see to the spot where you can find that. Pure hip-hop, forget about it, throw back. Get a blank tape, hit record and let's go back. The Who Mag hip-hop document. Hip-hop document. We keep rockin' it. It's the Who Mag. Ain't no stopping it. Hip-hop document. Hip-hop document.
1973 is kind of when all the elements came together, and pretty much that next 2 years pretty much formed the foundation of hip-hop culture.
Hip-hop is evolution, hip-hop is life, hip-hop is culture.
Hip-hop now is straight culture.
For me, hip-hop is, it's the music.
It means strength.
It's about your attitude and your lifestyle.
When you use the word hip-hop, it's about peace, love, unity, and having fun.
Hip-hop is breakdancing, graffiti.
Hip-hop is, yo, you my boy, yeah. You did good out there, watch me.
Whenever I think of hip-hop, I think of summertime.
Back in the early 70s, you had like the Bronx, you had all the abandoned buildings and stuff like that.
It originated in the BX in the Bronx.
The very first DJ I ever got to see on the turntable was Kool Herc.
I linked up with Kool Herc.
DJ Kool Herc.
I am the first solo MC in hip-hop.
We were the first female rappers.
Old musicians usually say, that ain't music, that ain't music.
And those are 5 milestones, I think, in hip-hop that make it what it is today.
I've seen it come from not being played on the radio at all.
Hear my mom's and my pop's records being spent back and forth, not knowing what it is, kind of thing.
There's a total difference between rap and hip-hop.
What they have now is rap. That's hip-hop. That's hip-hop.
Some of these kids don't know who a Chuck D is, who a Grandmaster Flash is.
Lyricists respect the old school.
I respect their love, but they don't know our love.
When the golden era stopped for not only myself, but groups like De La Soul and Jungle Brothers and things of that nature, it was like a slap in the face to the people that we served.
I used to study this man's cassettes.
People always ask me, who's better, Tupac or Biggie? I say Chuck D. Check the lyrics, listen to the flows, listen to the records. That is rap to perfection.
Everybody in the house, we dedicate the night to Mr. James Brown.
I practiced it with different records, and hours later, it became the scratch.
You can do this kind of scratch, and then there's Dr. Ice, and he can do this scratch, and then there's Jazzy Jeff and Cash Money, and he did the Transformer scratch, and DJ Aladdin, and it just starts to progress and progress.
First of all, you gotta have love and passion for the art.
There might be a record, and there was might be a break in the record. That's how, break beats.
We was in record pools, and the only DJs in the record pools that wanted rap records. Like the other DJs, they wanted dance music.
Well, before it used to be, if you found a record that had a beat on it, people will will dance to it. But these days, it's different.
At the time, we were signed to Sugar Hill.
People were coming over the bridge from New York to Sugar Hill, like, oh man, like Motown.
Today, right now, I'm getting paid off a record that I did with Sugar Hill. So when I made it with Sugar Hill, I didn't make no money. It only took like a matter of weeks before I really said, well, that's what I'm going to do. And not knowing that at that time we'll be establishing something that we will be calling hip-hop.
It's the Who Mag document. It ain't no stopping what the Bronx got poppin'. Commence the up-rockin'. Legendary DJs, old school's the key phrase. Lace up your BKs, take it to the PJs. But never mind rap, whoever was behind that. Sedgwick can see to the spot where you can find that. Pure hip-hop, forget about it, throw back. Get a blank tape, hit record and let's go back. The Who Mag hip-hop document. Hip-hop document. We keep rockin' it. It's the Who Mag. Ain't no stopping it. Hip-hop document. Hip-hop document. Come on.
I said, yo, Miss Rob, I can rap too. And she said, okay, baby, let me hear what you got. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I just said, a hip, hop, the hip, and start going like that. Start rapping about the furniture, the statues, the dog, the books. everything.
Run DMC started in probably first grade.
We was the one that put the hip hop into the people. We brought the game to the table.
We had Kevin Kev, Robbie Rob, and Ruby D, the 3 MCs. And Busy B will, come back and forth.
And Rob gave me the name Busy B.
I joined the Cold Crush in '79.
I hooked up with her and then asked her if I could rap for him.
UTFO was born in Brooklyn, New York.
That's when we came up with the name Nucleus.
Myself, Jerry J, Keith Shockley, and Hank Shockley, we had a crew called Spectrum City.
Well, Spectrum City goes back to, actually me and my brother Hank and Professor Griff started as DJ.
Black Sheep formed, I would say we probably formed back around 83.
When you become the dog pound for Rub City.
Naughty by Nature formed on the streets of Beach Orange, New Jersey.
We first came together in the newest show.
We felt we had to have a thing.
Native town, a group of groups.
It's not a crew like yo, you round, get down with us. It wasn't like that.
In those 22 months, we set every precedent in the rap game.
We do hardcore stuff over here. I don't know if y'all can pull it off.
I'm just some kind of rapper guy.
Greatest group in hip hop history is Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 Heads Down. My earliest memory of hip hop.
My earliest thing with hip hop. My earliest memories of hip hop.
Probably my earliest memory of hip hop.
My first memory of hip hop.
My earliest memory of hip hop.
When you're young, you're thinking, okay, this is the music that I can do.
That's when I got to learn about the introduction of hip hop.
It was just that thing that we do. Well, what is that thing we do? Somebody had to say what it was, and that phrase that was coined was called hip hop.
Documentaries on my TV network, whomagtv.com. There's a section that says movie. It's a free cell phone app too. You can download the Whomag Multimedia app or whomagtv.com. So that's just a little, we did 3,000 interviews. That was our documentary, and yeah, we did pretty well with it. So I guess you're gonna start asking questions.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Giulia's gonna start.
All right, Giulia.
Oh no, just keep it. I take that one, and so after we switch.
Yes.
So yeah, we have 2 mics as we said. But anyway. Come andiamo con l'inglese? Perché se o parlo io direttamente anche in inglese, avete capito qualcosa fino ad adesso? Perché questa potrebbe essere una domanda interessante. Possiamo continuare con l'inglese oppure, se preferite, io parlo in italiano, tanto a loro mi traduce Kwanza. Parlo in italiano, benissimo. Parlo in sardo e lo so che c'è una grandissima rappresentanza, ma lì non ci arrivo ancora. Dunque, questa breve introduzione è stata anche per mostrare il lavoro di uno dei nostri ospiti, Rob di MagTV, che insomma è rappresentante di questo network americano, è una distribuzione e nello specifico appunto loro ci supportano dalla prima edizione e Rob è anche un regista, oltre a essere insomma dentro all'universo hip hop da tutta una vita, ha deciso anche di documentarlo. Il perché di questa conferenza nasce da proprio una necessità di voler raccontare non solo la storia dell'hip hop, che sappiamo non potrà mai essere unitaria, no? È come se parliamo della Bibbia, cioè praticamente non arriviamo da nessuna parte, ma è per cercare di raccontarne le diverse narrazioni e in particolar modo fatte all'interno del mondo hip hop. E quindi 2 anni fa nasce l'idea, insomma, dal gruppo dei folli che stanno dietro a questo festival di dire ok, ma effettivamente esiste una cinematografia che racconta il mondo hip hop, che sia fatta da interni o che sia fatta da esterni, e questa cinematografia ha influenzato tutto il nostro sviluppo a livello di cultura nei diversi paesi, quindi forse è il caso di iniziare a metterla in ordine ora che arriviamo quasi ai 50 anni di storia. E quindi lo scorso anno abbiamo fatto un volume 1 di questa conferenza, che comunque si può trovare su YouTube, sul nostro canale Hiphopcinefest, e abbiamo iniziato a interrogare diverse persone che si occupano di cinema hip hop e abbiamo avuto ospiti dalla Tunisia, dalla Lituania, dalla Francia, quindi ognuno ha portato la prospettiva di come il cinema, e ovviamente anche dagli Stati Uniti, abbia influenzato la crescita delle scene locali. Quindi uno dice, vabbè, i primi film, Beat Street, Style Wars, Breakdance 1 e 2, non per tutti sono stati i primi film che hanno fatto la differenza. Ad esempio lo scorso anno l'ospite dalla Lituania ci ha raccontato dicendo beh, noi eravamo sotto l'Unione Sovietica, ovviamente non abbiamo avuto questi film. Ci hanno mandato degli spot televisivi che erano fatti all'epoca con una versione tipo della breakdance sovietica, che comunque sono stati un documento storico molto importante. E in Tunisia, nonostante uno pensa al rapporto con la Francia, quello che ci è stato invece fatto vedere è dice no, noi da 8 Mile o il film di 50 Cent abbiamo iniziato ad avere una grande influenza. E in Italia la storia è stata invece ancora diversa. La Francia ovviamente ha un capitolo completamente a sé, tanto che addirittura possiamo dire che ha sviluppato una cinematografia avanguardista, a parte il discorso dell'odio che ha influenzato moltissimo la scena italiana, e lo vediamo sotto ad esempio nella rappresentazione nella mostra, ci sono addirittura 3 pezzi dedicati all'odio, perché la mostra che abbiamo giù è dedicata ai film che hanno influenzato lo sviluppo della cultura hip hop, nello specifico a Roma, perché tutti gli artisti sono romani, quindi ognuno ha scelto un film che più lo rappresentava o la rappresentava. E quindi ecco il perché del dibattito di oggi. Abbiamo poi, oltre a Rob Indy, che è un regista e anche lui addentro alla scena newyorkese da molti anni, abbiamo Simone Danno, che non ha bisogno di nessuna presentazione, e poi abbiamo Celeste, che invece si occupa di documentaristica hip hop in Spagna. Quindi abbiamo tante persone diverse, da membri attivi della scena a documentaristi, a studiosi, perciò volevo fare questa breve introduzione per capire perché abbiamo scelto di fare questa conferenza, e questa conferenza speriamo l'anno prossimo di farne un volume 3 e che il festival sia motivo di dibattito per andare in un processo di archivistica. Uno dice madonna che palle l'archivistica, no, perché se noi non ci raccontiamo e non mettiamo in ordine le nostre carte, ci racconterà sempre qualcun altro, si approprieranno di quello che abbiamo fatto come è stato fino ad adesso, e quindi non saremo noi a parlare di noi stessi. Stiamo andando verso il 2024, la breakdance va alle Olimpiadi, i graffiti, la street art ormai sono entrati nelle gallerie ampiamente, il rap ormai è al top, è diventato il nuovo pop, quindi non possiamo permetterci di far stuprare la memoria storica di quello che è stato e di quello che può essere, ed ecco perché oggi io ho voluto fortemente questo dibattito. Detto questo, passo la parola di nuovo a Rob e poi andiamo avanti con i nostri oratori. Non era una questione, era un intervento, quindi se lui vuole raccontarci. Rob, so now just was introducing the conference itself, so if you want now tell us your opinion about the movies that has influenced the most the hip hop scene. Of course, you are from the States, so you can say from your perspective.
Absolutely.
Which
Well,
has
obviously,
been
we know the first movie was Wild Style, and after that, shortly after, was Styles War. But the first hip hop movie I saw was Crush Groove, and I remember I was really little. And I shouldn't be saying this with my daughter here, but I was really little, and I may have been 9 or 10 years old. I remember I rode my bike halfway across the city and parked and went to go see Crush Groove. They let me in by myself, and it just blew my mind because I was a huge fan of where I live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Hip hop came to us, a little later. Like when I was in the hip hop, nobody was in the hip hop at all where I lived. Everyone thought I was this weird kid. So nobody wanted to see Crush Groove with me. Nobody. So I went by myself, and it just blew my mind. And from there, the hip hop scene has changed. I love how it evolved. I mean, some of the cool things about it too is the evolution of that was when music got really big in the movies. We saw, you see Ice-T in some of these movies young. You see Run DMC. You see Fat Boys. You see LL Cool J with the most iconic scene ever in Crush Groove. That's my favorite scene when Box he drops in. That was to me that was hardcore hip hop at that time, because Run DMC was always hardcore until LL Cool J came out with that. But it just became an obsession. And I said, I was this weird kid that liked hip hop. Everyone thought I was this weird kid, but Look at him now. Hip hop got me into ringing the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange with Jesse Jackson. It got me speaking to 50,000 people in South Korea. It brought me here to Rome. I mean, hip hop is so powerful, and my whole career was based off of hip hop television and hip hop movies. That's how I got started. So again, like I said earlier, I'm the first one ever to put hip hop in Netflix. Period. I'm the first one to put hip hop on Blockbuster. I don't know if you guys have Blockbuster out here, but it was like a big movie store.
We had it.
Yeah, they didn't know what to do with it. They put it in a special interest section next to a Jane Fonda DVD and a cooking DVD, and there was my hip hop DVD. And every time I go into the store, it was always out. It was always gone because everyone was always renting it, and it was awesome. But yeah, so the evolution from there, from going to the New York scene to going to like some of the West Coast hip hop movies, and then seeing like some of the stuff that I saw here since I was here, man. I had a great time watching Federico's movie, like seeing how the Central America graffiti scene, like there's just so many things like hip hop started where we were. So even like when things like Miami came out with Two Live Crew and West Coast came out with their music, we were still in our bubble. Like we didn't care about a lot of that stuff because we had so much coming out. But I think as Atlanta came in and kind of changed the scene where people started looking like, wow, there is this whole other stuff going on. And then we start seeing more international records come out. But like coming to something like this is such a great thing because we get to see things that we have no idea about because we're still kind of stuck in our bubble. And as you guys may have known, New York hip hop has changed a lot, which, not always for the better, but there's still a lot of incredible MCs out in New York, and luckily I have a job. I do music distribution with 2,000 records out, so I get to hear so much incredible music. We have so many international records too, submitted from all over the world to us, which is great. But yeah, I mean, hip hop cinemas, it changed the landscape for films in general. I think it changed the landscape for documentaries in a way, like biopics, because there's so many biopics on hip hop artists. I mean, the NWA one, there was a sort, even like when Eminem came out, even though it wasn't really a biopic, it almost felt like it was a biopic. And it gave this feel and for those that didn't even like hip hop or even like Eminem, they loved that movie. That was just an iconic movie. But the evolution has changed and it's great, and then my favorite thing about it too was the soundtracks because there's like maybe one producer did the entire soundtrack and it had all the biggest names of, like New Jack City soundtrack was one of my favorites. The Juice soundtrack was one of my favorites. And we lost that. It's not there anymore. We don't have the soundtrack anymore to movies, it breaks my heart because that was my favorite thing. Was you have a compilation. There's money behind these records because the movie put it out. So every record is going to be dope. So, yeah, but I love how my favorite part about the evolution of hip-hop films is, of course, me being in the film industry, cameras are cheaper, equipment's cheaper, so we're seeing more and more independent films being made, which tell more of a real grittier story, so you can actually feel it more than the overpriced Hollywood versions of what they're doing. So, yeah.
And also, we speak about independent, okay, so I speak in Italian for them and Kwanzaa translate for you. Torniamo al discorso dell'indipendente che abbiamo proprio parlato nella precedente conferenza. E chiaramente per tutti noi che non siamo americani, indipendente significa totalmente un'altra cosa. E io credo che un altro punto molto importante sia anche la cinematografia intesa a livello di fotografia cinematografica, perché l'universo hip hop ha creato un immaginario fotografico a livello di direzione della fotografia, partendo dai videoclip musicali che oggi hanno influenzato l'immaginario fino al grande schermo. E questa è un'altra narrazione che deve essere studiata, analizzata dai video dei contest di breakdance, da come col fisheye viene ripreso in una determinata maniera, da sotto, il piede, piuttosto che come si riprende un rapper on stage. Cioè c'è un codice e questo codice forse dovremmo iniziare a raccontarcelo in qualche maniera, e questi film sono stati il primo inizio in questa direzione, e mi piacerebbe chiedere a Indy, adesso che invece è di New York, se ci dà la sua opinione su quelli che sono stati i film che secondo lui hanno influenzato di più la diffusione dell'hip hop a New York. Noi racconteremo nel resto del mondo.
So, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me come down. I really appreciate that. You guys are doing a great thing. This is a great festival. Movies wise, well, to answer the question, you know, it's always the same. Everything in life starts with a seed. It starts here, it goes there. So I only know what I know. And my introductory to hip hop may have been a little different from what it is that I'm hearing. I came off the porch in my town. I come from Amityville, Long Island. That's in New York. It's a very special town. It's not like a lot of other places. But, you know, to get a picture, you know, when I was young, I grew up at a time when Public Enemy was, you know, doing their thing. They're from Long Island. EPMD is from Long Island. Rakim is from Long Island. De La Soul is from Long Island. And I was barely a teenager when all of them were like riding around in cars and chains and doing all of the things. So, you know, I came off the porch and just looked around and was like, you know, this is really cool. The first movie that I saw, well, some things were happening simultaneously. So like I said, I was young, so there were things that was happening simultaneously. We have this thing in my town called Amityville Day. It's an annual event that they put on. And to describe the event, you know, back as I can recall when we were younger, on one side of a park, if you can imagine, let's say on this side of the park, there would be a DJ and speakers about the size of Godzilla. And on the other side of the park, there'd be another DJ, and there'd be speakers about the size of Godzilla. And the first time I went, you know, I was like, this is incredible. So whoever's rocking the most, people are walking back and forth. They're kind of battling, and this is my understanding of what's happening. And something that I realized was that Grandmaster Caz was battling some MCs from my town in Amityville, the Cold Crush Brothers. But that same year, I saw Wild Style. And when all of this was happening pretty much the same summer, well, when I first saw Wild Style, I didn't get to all the way watch it because my mom, you know, sent me to sleep or whatever. But I realized that it came back on at like 3 o'clock in the morning, so I snuck back up, and I was like, wait a minute, you know, like I have to finish this movie. So I'm watching the rest of Wild Style. It's super incredible, and I'm going to tell you, for like 1 week straight, you could not tell me that I wasn't Grandmaster Caz. For like a full week straight, like you could not tell me I was not Grandmaster Caz. I got over it, but for that week right there, you couldn't. He was better than Superman. Superman wears underwear on the outside. You can't beat Grandmaster Caz. Superman couldn't beat Grandmaster Caz. I'm watching this movie. These things proved to me as an older adult the power of inspiration. It gave me a direction. It made me learn acceptance, being a part of a culture and a community. Years later, and you know, I think everyone's familiar with Wild Style at this point. We all have our Wild Style stories, right? So years later, I'm on 99th in Lexington. I'm hanging out in Harlem. There's a projects over there. There's this guy that he has a sculpture shop, and all of the little kids are going in and out of this sculpture shop. So I went in there, you know, kind of like to check it out. I'm talking to the guy. We're having a great conversation, and he says, hey, man, you know, like I told him I made a few records. You know, at the time, I was making records with Prince Paul. We did the Prince Amongst Thieves album, which is probably like 100 years from now, or to be considered like one of the 100 greatest albums ever. So, you know, that's a big thing. You know, we were doing the Ron Valor music stuff, and, you know, and I was telling him these things, and he said, you should meet my brother. So I said, who's your brother? And he says, Charlie Ahern. And I said, who? And he said, Charlie Ahern. And I already knew who he was, but now I don't want to miss this opportunity. So I'm like trying to play it cool, like I don't know who he is. I'm like, oh yeah, interesting. You know, but the next day, he tells me come tomorrow. I came tomorrow. The next day, Charlie Ahern shows up. Coolest guy you ever met. Coolest guy you ever met. He says, hey, Velour, man, you know, you want to go up to the Bronx? I said, what do you want to do in the Bronx? He said, you know, it's been a while since I made Wild Style. You know, I haven't really seen the old neighborhood in a little bit. You know, let's just go to all of the places. I'm in the Bronx, walking around the Bronx at all of the places that they shot Wild Style. This is the park, this is the project, this is the this is the that. Incredible, incredible day. We're up there, I think that's the first time I met Grandmaster Caz on another level. T. La Rock, Grand Wizard Theodore. So many people that we met just randomly. And yeah, so I understand how they can do a Wild Style because he really just went there and filmed what he saw. And it wasn't, I don't think it took much to just tie a story into it because it was real life. And that's kind of how, you know, to bring it back to how I got started. I got started by coming outside, seeing real life, seeing people do things, being inspired, and then having experiences with some of the same people I was inspired by. You know, that's why, you know, being from Amityville, you know, when I see, you know, the new guys doing it, like one of my favorite groups from Amityville is this group called Dunbar, and they're really special. You guys may not have heard of them, you know, but the one thing that I say is if you're really gonna MC, you know, go to a party in the Bronx, you know, go get that education, go to a party in the Bronx. So, you know, for those of you in Italy, I just wanted to share my Bronx story. Hopefully, you know, you kind of feel like you was there a little bit with me, but and then, you know, that's why, you know, when they had the Beat Street documentaries, the NWA documentaries, the Wu-Tang series on Hulu, you know, those are the ones that I kind of feel like the organic movies, you know, not the, you know, it's still art if someone creates a story in their mind and says, you know, I'm gonna put this movie together. But the organic ones are the ones that, you know, are really a reflection of real life. You know, we did a movie about a magazine called Frequency Magazine in Virginia, and the movie is called Versatility 3 Rewind. And, you know, we just kind of like followed that organic formula. So if you want to hear about some hip hop history in Virginia, check out Versatility 3 Rewind. It's a really good movie. But the organic ones, I think, you know, my good friend Rob will agree, are the ones that, you know, really sink in.
Thank you, Indy. E a questo punto passerei il testimone a Simone che ci racconterà la sua prospettiva.
Ciao a tutti quanti, io sono Danno e vediamo un po'. Innanzitutto volevo subito, vedendo questi trailer che lui ha mandato, che sono, insomma, vedere così tanto materiale, un collage di così tante interviste mi ha subito fatto pensare che ecco cosa è mancato in Italia, no? C'è adesso S-Magazine, adesso sui social, su YouTube trovate tanti contenitori che informano sullo stato attuale dell'hip hop. È un peccato che non ci sia stato un lavoro del genere a partire dagli anni 90, se non per un'eccezione che va ricordata, ovvero lo sforzo che provò a fare ESA con gli OTR e tutto il suo crew, facendo 3 o 4 videocassette, se non sbaglio, chiamati Mixman Connection, che erano proprio dei video magazine hip hop. Nella prima c'era un'intervista a Neffa, poi c'era un'intervista a me, poi c'era un'intervista a Speaker Censu, poi un'intervista a un writer. Quella roba era fatta dal basso, genuinamente, spontaneamente, come si faceva nei mixtape, per un pubblico molto ristretto di appassionati e purtroppo è un po' finita lì. Un problema grande che abbiamo avuto nel rapportarci con l'hip hop in Italia è stata la scarsezza di informazioni, o potremmo dire di educazione all'hip hop che abbiamo avuto. Mi è sorta subito una domanda vedendo il suo trailer: quanti nomi conoscete di quelli visti? Perché io non tutti, ma sono convinto che in questo paese se ne conoscano 5 di quei nomi che si vedevano dietro, forse i più famosi. E questo è qualcosa che ci ha fatto un po' perdere quella narrazione, quel quadro completo, no? Siamo stati un pochino poco educati, nel senso che ci hanno educato poco, c'è stato un giornalismo musicale poco attento all'hip hop, salvo AL, salvo alcune cose sul rumore, salvo alcune fanzine. E nello stesso tempo possiamo dire anche l'aspetto cinematografico, l'aspetto di documentari, è un qualcosa che si vede in realtà in forma concreta più in quest'ultimo periodo, più dagli anni 2000 in poi. Fermo restando che negli anni 90 ci sono stati 2 tentativi molto importanti comunque di realizzare un cinema hip hop, uno in chiave di cortometraggio con semiautomatico, un prodotto super underground romano dove dentro ci recitavano Primo Brown, G-Max, Rude, c'erano i Flaminio, c'era Turi, e poi ovviamente Zora la vampira, che però è un esperimento a metà è un film comico, metà è un film hip hop. Ora però a me piacerebbe fare un passo ancora indietro. Loro hanno parlato di Wild Style, hanno parlato di Beat Street, che sono film tipicamente hip hop, cioè sono film il cui soggetto è un soggetto hip hop. Si racconta la storia di crew che si sfidano, si racconta la storia di writers che si sfidano. Questo tipo di film in Italia, a meno che non lo beccavi a tarda notte su qualche rete privata o avevi un amico scoppiato che aveva la videocassetta, ci arrivavi dopo. Cioè ci arrivavi una volta che già eri entrato nel mondo dell'hip hop, che avevi conosciuto le prime persone, ti avevano passato le prime fanzine. Tenete presente che è un discorso da anziano, ma quando abbiamo cominciato noi l'unico modo di avere informazioni era prendere quell'autobus che ti portava a Piazzale Flaminio o a Piazza di Spagna, perché era quello il punto di ritrovo a Roma di quelle 40 persone che avevano amore per l'hip hop, e sperare che uno di quei 40 avesse saputo qualcosa in più e te la diceva, c'aveva un disco in più e te lo passava, aveva rimediato un numero di una fanzine. Quindi diciamo, al di là di quello che abbiamo visto una volta entrati nell'hip hop, e quindi già quando ci hanno accompagnato per mano, a me invece interessa un po' raccontare quelle briciole che magari anche senza capirlo noi ci siamo incappati, cioè quei film che non è che proprio sono hip hop, ma c'è dell'hip hop e hanno in qualche modo istillato quel germe, ci hanno messo dentro quel germe, quel virus dell'hip hop, ci hanno fatto vedere qualcosa, una scena, 2 scene, un qualcosa che ha detto ma che cos'è quella roba lì? Allora, per la maggior parte delle persone fuori dagli Stati Uniti, negli Stati Uniti quando era nato il fenomeno del breaking, del b-boying, anche proprio il primo hip hop comunque già si sentiva nell'aria. Per chi era fuori dagli Stati Uniti è stato difficile cogliere i primi movimenti di questa cultura, ma uno shock fu Flashdance. Allora, Flashdance non è un film hip hop, ma dentro Flashdance c'è una scena che dura 1 minuto in cui lei, tornando a casa, vede i Rocksteady Crew che ballano la breakdance per strada. Ora, quella scena alcuni dei miei amici l'hanno rivista 1000 volte. Si registravano il film alla televisione e rimettevano 100 volte solo quel minuto per cercare di imparare quel passo e per capire che cos'è che sta facendo quello. Da lì qualcuno ha imparato cos'era la breakdance, il b-boying, e ancora oggi se parli con i breaker di mezzo mondo di una certa età ti dicono che sì, Flashdance è stata una delle prime scintille. Un'altra scintilla per noi, soprattutto per me, è stato Do the Right Thing, fa la cosa giusta di Spike Lee. non è un film hip hop, non racconta di un writer, di un rapper o di un DJ. È la storia di un ragazzo che consegna le pizze in un quartiere in cui sta per scoppiare qualcosa di brutto. Nello stesso tempo c'è un personaggio, Radio Raim, che gira con un radione gigantesco e suona a tutto volume la musica dei Public Enemy e c'ha questi anelli d'oro con scritto Love e Hate. Quel film è uscito nell'89 e noi non avevamo mai visto una roba così in Italia. In Italia non giravano coi radioni così, o comunque non suonavano quella musica. Ma quando siamo usciti dal cinema, io e quei 3 amici miei con cui per un motivo strano siamo andati a vedere sto film, noi non parlavamo altro che di Radio Raim. Io volevo una radio grossa così, e che cos'è quella canzone che sta suonando? Io voglio quegli anelli. E Radio Raim resta un'icona hip hop perché per chi come noi non ne sapeva ancora quasi nulla dell'hip hop, vedere Radio Raim è stata una delle prime visioni di un qualcosa che poi avremmo riconosciuto nell'hip hop. C'è qualcuno che se ne andava in giro con la propria musica, che la suonava alta e non gliene fregava niente di niente, credeva in quella roba e si sfidava col portoricano davanti casa a chi alzava più il volume. È quello che racconta lui dei mega sound system con le casse di Godzilla a chi fa di più. Lui se la viveva sotto casa da ragazzino, noi no. Noi non abbiamo mai visto queste robe e abbiamo cominciato a vederle ad esempio in un film del genere. Anni dopo, perché parliamo di quasi 10 anni dopo, l'ha detto lei, un film come L'Odio è stato uno schiaffo in faccia a tutti i ragazzini in Europa, perché anche lì non è un film hip hop, non racconta di writer, non racconta di... Ma quanto è hip hop quel film? La scena in cui Cat Killa mette le casse fuori con la maglietta di Cypress Hill ripreso da dietro e screccia, è una delle cose più hip hop mai viste. E per noi europei vedere un hip hop non per forza solo americano del Bronx o di Brooklyn ci è servito forse 10 volte tanto, ci ha fatto capire che era anche nostra quella roba, ormai si era diffusa in tutto il mondo, era qualcosa che aveva a che fare con le periferie, con le nuove generazioni, con certi contesti urbani e sociali. Era, ripeto, anche nostra e non soltanto appartenente a un mondo americano. Nell'Odio, fra l'altro, c'è una scena, una cosa che io ripeto spesso, ma che a me mi colpisce tantissimo, io gli trovo un senso, poi non so se il regista è, ma c'è questa scena in cui tutti si ritrovano a guardare i breaker. C'è un momento in cui ci sono tutti questi ballerini che ballano e stanno tutti, no, affascinati a guardare questi breaker, però poi arriva un ragazzino, il ragazzino arriva di corsa e dice oh si stanno menando sopra, e tutti se ne vanno sopra a vedere quelli che si menano, ma il regista cosa fa? Lascia la telecamera ferma e rimane inquadrato per quasi un minuto il breaker che gira sulla testa da solo in silenzio, da solo, lui continua a girare. Per me quella è una metafora, perché in quegli anni, l'Odio è uscito 95, 94, insomma in quel periodo lì, l'hip hop, il rap soprattutto, anche quello di New York, stava diventando molto gangsta, molto violento. Stava cambiando l'hip hop di New York, da che prima era più conscious, un pochino più intellettuale, un po' più smart, stava prendendo toni sempre più violenti e gangsta. E secondo me quella è una metafora, cioè è arrivato il gangsta rap e la gente preferisce ascoltare persone che dicono di spararsi piuttosto che magari guardare un breaker che gira sulla testa, che forse è qualcosa di ancora più magico. Quindi sicuramente secondo me fa la cosa giusta. L'Odio sono 2 film importantissimi, io dico, per noi. Ma ce ne sono un paio di altri. Sicuramente noi ragazzini, prima di capire bene cosa fosse l'hip hop, altri pezzetti li abbiamo avuti vedendo Colors, che ci ha raccontato che cosa fossero le gang, i colori. E chi lo sapeva che questi blu contro rosso si sparavano? E chi lo sapeva che Los Angeles era così diversa da New York? Boys in the Hood, New Jack City, che lui ha già parlato con la colonna sonora di Ice-T. Sono tutti film che non sono film tipicamente hip hop, perché, ripeto, non si parla di un rapper, ma nello stesso tempo hanno hanno intorno un'aura hip hop così forte che per noi quella è stata la prima cinematografia hip hop. Noi abbiamo cominciato a identificare, ad avere delle stelle guida guardando quei film, e secondo me c'è un film che più di tutti è il film più hip hop che esiste. Adesso dico questa roba e loro magari mi diranno ma che cazzo dici? Però ve la metto così, è un film degli anni '80, a metà fra è un film quasi che sfiora la fantascienza, ma per me dentro c'è tutto gli elementi chiave dell'hip hop, ci sono tutti, ed è The Warriors, i guerrieri della notte. Quello è un film incredibile, è un film incredibile perché innanzitutto racconta le bande e le gang del Bronx, mitologia dalla quale nasce l'hip hop attraverso Kool Herc, Bambata, la Zulu Nation, e tutta l'idea che a un certo punto qualcuno dice non possiamo più ammazzarci l'uno con l'altro, stop, trasformiamo questa roba in una competizione diversa, più sana, più artistica, e nel momento in cui le bande siglano la famosa tregua si possono tornare a fare le feste nei parchi e la gente torna insieme, ritorna alla musica, ed è per questo che nasce l'hip hop, perché non c'è più questo rischio fortissimo che ci si accoltelli e ci si spari. Nei Guerrieri della Notte il film comincia con questo raduno al Bronx dove Cyrus vuole riunire le bande contro la polizia di New York. Prima degli NWA quel film stava dicendo fuck the police, prima ancora. La frase can you dig it, riesci a sentirmi, che dice Cyrus a tutte le bande, è una delle frasi più campionate e diventerà slang nei testi rap, il can you dig it. Non solo, che cosa racconta The Warriors? Una New York pericolosissima, che è il contesto da cui nasce l'hip hop come lo conosciamo noi. Quest'idea di una banda contro l'altra, le crew. Che cosa sono quelle bande se non le moderne crew? Ognuna vestita in un modo particolare con un proprio nome, le crew. Perché noi ci volevamo fare le magliette del Romzù e quelli si facevano le magliette roba coatta e le crew si fanno le proprie divise, i rocksteady avevano le cose. Quindi, e ultimo elemento, loro tracciano dovunque vanno la W. Cioè dentro c'è quella New York lì in cui i writer prendevano possesso della città lasciando tracce. Ora possiamo dire che non c'è la componente proprio rap o non c'è la componente proprio breaking, ma per come la vedo io, prima degli altri film, quel film a me ragazzino e a tanti altri ragazzini ha lasciato dentro qualcosa che quando poi abbiamo conosciuto l'hip hop abbiamo detto ma i Guerrieri della Notte. È il nostro sogno da sempre poter avere una banda, non abbiamo fatto le bande, abbiamo fatto i crew, i gruppi. Quindi The Warriors secondo me è un film che soprattutto per noi in Italia ci ha spiegato benissimo quella mitologia su quella New York degli anni '80 che era una terra di nessuno in cui poteva succedere tutto, e infatti è nato l'hip hop.
Prima di ripassare la parola agli Stati Uniti, io vorrei fargli finire di sentire le prospettive di altre parti del mondo e chiamerei anche Federico qui dalla Costa Rica perché ci piacerebbe sapere anche la sua opinione al riguardo. So what I was saying is like, since we are giving a kind of overview for all the world perception of hip hop, starting from where it has born to Italy, to Spain, and we have the occasion of having Costa Rica here, so we want to know also your opinion about that. So now we go with Celeste, that she's going to tell us about Spain, and after, if you like, I would like to have your opinion, to go back to Rob and Indy to know their perception of everything they heard, if you ever heard something like this, okay?
Prima di tutto, scusi per il mio italiano, sono nuova. Nel caso della Spagna, la storia del cinema e del hip hop è una storia di evoluzione. C'è il primo tempo dove film come Wild Style, Style Wars, era la prima fiamma che ha fatto svegliare il graffiti, il break, anche l'effetto della TV. Io sono degli anni 90. Il problema è che dopo questa prima fiamma, che un collega lo sai, quasi il hip hop del mainstream è sparito. Perché il mainstream non voglia più di avere hip hop, di avere rap. E tutto passa a una scena underground. E la prima prova di questo è il primo film documentari nella TV spagnola, che si chiama in spagnolo Mi firma en las paredes, che c'è un film del graffiti che si faceva, e la storia di Muelle, di Tifón, di tutti quei bellissimi scrittori che c'erano a Madrid, ma non c'era solo la scena di Madrid, era la scena di Barcellona, era la scena di Siviglia, e questo film solo racconta il primo momento del graffiti, ma anche si parla di che c'è il ballo, c'è il breaking, c'è il primo momento del rap, ma dopo questo, che è nell'anno 91, tutto è sparito e tutto torna all'underground. Per me, che sono nata al 91, era un piccolo cretino, non poteva saperlo, ma dopo questa scena underground continua. I will have to continue this in English because I don't know how to say it in Italian. The thing is that this underground scene continues cooking what is going to be the future of hip hop, and that scene develops in the next film that is also at TV, Hip Hop España, at the Channel 2 of Radio Televisione Spagnola. E questo è un cambio fortissimo. Parliamo di Frank T, parliamo di CPV, parliamo di una scena di rap, di graffiti, e tutti le b-boy dicevano: prima non parlavano con b-boy, ora stai parlando con il hip hop spagnolo. E stiamo parlando che l'anni 90 solo ha... sorry, I'm changing the languages. The bilingualism is going to kill me one day. And this is the strong scent of the scene, the strong seed of the cinema. The 90s is the cooking of the Spanish hip hop, but it also reveals how the cinema can contribute to say, hey, you may be not seeing us every day at TV or at the radio, but we are here. With the 21st century, it's the new boom, thanks to two factors. The continued influence of the United States, that was really strong in Spain, but also the movies. Because we are not only starting to do our own documentary movies, but we have one movie that helped us to get to the mainstream once again. Not really strongly, Cutie can tell it with me. But we have 8th Mile coming to Spain. That was madness. Suddenly everyone wanted to do freestyle. Now, rap is a new tendency again. Now we want you back at TV. We want you back to make interviews. But the problem was that the mainstream didn't understand the scene. We were an underground movement that no one heard of. The first PhD of hip hop in Spain is in 2003. We don't have professionals. We only have professionals at movies. But this movie scene is also so underground. And we start to have not biopics or fiction, but we have documentary films. And these documentary films talk about the maximum points of excellence of groups, like Violadores del Verso. Tote King makes an excellent documentary film called Tengo que volver a casa, and where he speaks how, yes, I'm at a very professional, good moment now, but I'm also not feeling well. I don't get where I am at the moment. I'm sleeping at my house or I'm sleeping at the hotel. I'm really going out of focus. and also the underground scene at the different parts of Spain. Hip Hop Asturias. For example, there are two amazing documentary films about how the hip hop is in Las Islas Canarias. There is a whole underground scene of documentaries analyzing in the first decade of the 2000s how the scene is developing. It's a really strong link. As the hip hop national scene develops, that documentary scene goes up. And it's one of the main ideas that go with hip hop cinema in Spain. If we develop, this scene is going to develop at an underground level because we are not going in the mainstream, but it's a really interesting story. We're only beginning to know about it. I was doing in my PhD an interview with Frank T, one of the greatest of Spanish rap, and he asked me, but there are so many documentary films? How many there? And I said, 29. And he's like, whoa, that many already? Spain is just starting to understand its power. We are only understanding that we are now in the new mainstream, and we are only starting to go to the next level of the scene. But the key to understand how hip-hop cinema and Spain is going is evolution and going to the next level. If we go together, we will go further. If we don't, we will go back to where we were in the 90s, and no one wants that.
Thank you.
Take it.
So I want to leave the word to Federico, because so we make a tour of the world with the hip-hop opinions, and I think it's really nice to see the different perspective. And actually, we had in competition the movie from Canary, one of the movie from Canary. And another nice thing is like the boy in the La Haine that Simone was saying before. I met him, the guys that was doing the head spin, and it was a very fun story because he say, yeah, you know, I was in La Haine. Really? Who are you? I am the guy with the colorful pants. It's black and white, the movie. I am the one doing the head spin. Okay, so now I know who you are. So anyway, it's nice because everything is connected. So Federico, since you are here, he is the director of Tlaculios, a very nice movie about graffiti in Central America, shot it in 20 years. So he can maybe tell us something about how the movies changed the hip-hop perception in Costa Rica or in Central America.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you, everybody. I need to speak on two perspectives because I can represent Central America too, because we're a united movement, but I have to speak also on my Costa Rica perspective, which is a little bit different too, because Central America is very close to United States. It's like Central America, Mexico, and then it's United States. So lots of people during the war in the 90s and the 80s in most of Central America immigrated to the United States, most of them to Los Angeles. So like many was coming back with all this influence. We already talked also about the gangs also, but we're not talk about this. We're gonna talk strictly hip hop. So many people also was being deported. So in Central America, the most influence was West Coast hip hop. But then later on, as we started getting more deep into the culture, we started like looking more for New York roots, like cultural hip hop style like that, because what we like in the 90s, the influence that we had was more like gangster rap, like all that was coming with Snoop, Dr. Dre, all that hit super big. But also at the same time, we had a lot of influence because there was a lot of Latino rappers, and we relate to that a lot because even that they wasn't speaking fully Spanish yet, because later on that started, but now we have a big, huge Spanish movement in Spain, Latin America, everywhere. But at those times, like, there were some groups that started speaking like Spanglish. So we could understand some words, and like that for us that was a big deal. So for example, Cypress Hill is big, huge influence in Latin America, and like groups like Delinquent Habits, like also a group from New York like the Beat Nut. Like we was listening to that a lot because that was we related like, hey, that's our people. Like we felt we was represented in hip hop because there was Latinos doing big hip hop and Latino culture. Like even if it's not our country, we're like a big family. Like even if it's a Mexican or Salvadoreño or whatever, it feels like it's somebody from your neighborhood because we have a similar culture. So that was a big influence in Central America, like the West Coast mainly at the beginning because of the immigration, basically. And there was a lot of people like Central Americans doing like that was being part of these movements in the early stages, but it was like we was like invisible. So we was getting mixed with the Chicanos. With like when I spoke to Don Carmelo from Radiotron, which is a foundation from LA Cultural Center in the 80s, he told me there was some of the best b-boys was from Nicaragua, from Honduras. But I learned this like last year. So for that, because we was kind of like diluted in the whole thing. But yeah, West Coast. But in Costa Rica, particular situation, Costa Rica was the only country in Central America we didn't immigrate to the United States as much because we didn't have war in the 80s or in the 90s, so there was no need to leave the country. Like our brothers from, a lot of people from Nicaragua. Nicaraguans also immigrated in Miami a lot, in LA, but mostly like everybody from El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and like everybody was going to LA escaping from war. And on the other side, Panama, which is south from Costa Rica, had the situation with the Panama Channel. So there was a lot, like there was U.S. troops, and like there was a zone that they call the zone that Panamanians could not get in. And there was where the families of the soldiers and the people who was working at the channel lived. And there was a U.S. influence, and like hip hop started also in Panama that way. But in Costa Rica, for example, in my particular story, I was a teenager in the 90s. In Costa Rica in the 90s, there was a big movement. We was skating, and we was like punk rock, hardcore. We used to play punk rock, hardcore bands, and we were listening to hip hop at the same time. And also there's a big reggae movement because the whole Caribbean of Costa Rica is Jamaican descendants. And people in the Caribbean side of Costa Rica speak Patois or like Jamaican style English at the same time as Spanish. So there was a big reggae dancehall influence because in the 90s the dancehall like Buju Banton, Beanie Man, all this. So this is still in Costa Rica is the biggest movement. But at the same time we had like a skateboarding punk rock movement in the 90s which I was part of. So before internet, it was very, very hard to find music because in Costa Rica, you couldn't buy in a record store, only the most mainstream things would come. You couldn't find like a Snoop Dogg or something like that. You had to, like somebody had to go to the States and bring it. And then like, we would say, oh, your aunt is going to the States, tell her to bring this. And then they would bring it and we would like make tapes, mixtapes, and like make copies of all that, and everybody like make a copy of a copy of a copy and tape. But I would do mixtapes. I would go skating with a Walkman, listening to hip hop and all this. But for me, for example, we used to dig music since we couldn't get it elsewhere in skate videos, because since we were skating, like we were learning the tricks and everything. Like somebody had a new skate video that was like hot, and then in the skate videos, you would find the best, like the soundtracks was amazing, and it was the best underground. You would find punk, hip hop, not only hip hop, but for example, the first time I hear Wu-Tang Clan in my life, it was in a skate video in a party. Like, what is that? So we would go to the credits. Okay, in this guy part, it says Wu-Tang Clan. Like, write it down. If somebody go to the States, they need to bring like. And a friend of mine, his father, like I remember. One of my best friends, his father went to the States and he brought a bunch of CDs, and like that was like gold. I remember like in that package of CDs was Mobb Deep, Tribe Called Quest, Wu-Tang Clan, Digable Planets, Gangstar, and like that blew our minds. Like so we was digging like that, looking for the music and skate videos and like. But at the beginning, in the 90s, I got deep into rap, but I didn't understand the whole concept of the hip hop culture like that. But I knew there was breakdancing, graffiti, like, but I didn't understand that all the elements and like what we got, it was like the rap thing mostly. Like later on, when we start like learning more about it and like, okay, this is the culture and the 4 elements and the rappers, the industry made the rappers like the most important thing, but is in the real cultural thing is like all the elements is as important. Even like the DJs was most important than the rappers at the beginning, but like so it was like a discovery through the years. Like we was like the most that we dig, and also of course when the internet came, then it became so much easier. Like you could like study it like that, like watch all the movies, the documentaries. For me, for example, I have to say that inspiration to do Tlacuilos most definitely Style Wars. There's also one scene that I make a little homage to Style Wars. I don't know if everybody saw it, but like there's a part where there's this artist from Panama that is called Cas. And he's one of the most bombers in Panama. He always gets in trouble with the police, and like he was on TV and everything. Like they arrested him, and he was all over the country on TV. And then I interviewed his mom, and ¿verdad? The mom is saying, como, yeah, but that was a homage because in Style Wars you see that too. There's one of the graffiti artists, he was with his mom, and that blew my mind, like, wow, because ¿verdad? You see these kids doing all this, but what about them? What would the mom say about this, that his kid is going in the subway tunnels, risking his life to this like 16-year-old kid doing graffiti? So that was a little homage because that movie inspired me a lot. Like Style Wars is come on, like for me it's like the graffiti Bible, but for everybody. So when we start getting more access to these movies and documentaries, we start studying more and more. But we didn't get this till later. You couldn't find none of this like before, or maybe somebody that had for that. Like, but also in those days, it was so difficult to get the music and everything that people wasn't sharing like that. If you had like underground music like that, it was like a treasure, and you wouldn't give it to somebody like that, like a poser. So or you would test people like like you had to have some
not to you.
Exactly. And if they give you a tape, they will always tell you, don't give it to nobody. And if you would do it and they know, they won't give you music, never. Like you had to earn some respect in the movement. Like for example, like with punk rock, like that's when it started. Like you had to, if they see you like a poser, they will not let you hear music like that. And like everything changed with the internet. Like now everybody can have everything. Like, but it was a different mindset back in the day because it was so difficult to get these things. Like you had a little bit of power, having like a tape, and people, verdad, like people, some people didn't share at all, verdad, like.
It was the same with the breakdance video. They were like a treasure. You go to
exactly.
Take like a freestyle session 7. It was
exactly.
A treasure at the period.
So yes, that's like a little bit Costa Rica perspective versus the rest of Central America. But yeah, it was first West Coast influence. I remember like also I played guitar since I'm a kid. I was a lot into rock, blues, punk, hard metal, everything. But then at the beginning in Costa Rica, the first thing that I hear about rap music, it was only the mainstream that was on TV, like Vanilla Ice, MC Hammer, and these things. And I didn't like that at the beginning. Like it didn't talk to me like that until somebody gave me a Public Enemy tape, and then because I was listening to punk rock and all this, come on, more anti-system and all of this criticizing, and I knew about all the situation that African Americans was happening in the United States with all the racism, and why are they talking about this? And then when I hear Public Enemy, I was come, okay, this is it. And then like I think 93, 94, when Wu-Tang, Snoop, Dr. Dre, all these gangster, like that's when I got like, it blew my mind. Like I got deep into it, most definitely. I'm like, I love this hip hop thing. Like it just blew my mind.
Grazie.
Io volevo dire una cosa, ma la dico in italiano o in inglese a lui? In italiano.
I translate it for
Nel
you.
senso...
And after, I want to know your perceptions, so I already passed the mic to you.
Yes.
I translate for
Vado in italiano o in inglese?
vai in italiano.
Italiano, ok. Quello che dice lui è importante anche per la realtà italiana, almeno come è stata nei fine anni 80 inizio anni 90. Io penso alla scena di Roma, che è quella che conosco, ma la cultura dello skateboarding è stata molto importante anche per noi dell'hip hop. Spesso la metà di noi dell'hip hop abbiamo avuto a che fare, abbiamo provato ad andare sullo skate, eravamo comunque quasi un'unica scena. I video di skate che giravano, come dice lui, contenevano le migliori tracce underground fra rap, hardcore, punk, scene che si sarebbero unite a Roma. Agli inizi proprio degli anni 90 al circolo degli artisti, noi cosiddetti rappettari, stavamo sui palchi con i punk rockers della scena hardcore, come i Concrete, Growing Concern. E mi fa pensare a una cosa curiosa, nel senso che in America il link fra la cultura dello skateboarding e la cultura hip hop, uno dei link è un fotografo, Glenn E. Friedman, fotografo essenziale di fine anni 80, colui che fece le foto più belle ai Public Enemy per le copertine, fu il fotografo dei Beastie Boys. I Beastie Boys sono un anello di congiunzione fra la cultura del punk e la cultura dell'hip hop. Friedman era il fotografo più forte degli skateboarders di Los Angeles, ma era anche il fotografo dei Black Flag e dei gruppi più importanti della scena punk hardcore. Divenne poi il fotografo dell'hip hop. A Roma era attivo come fotografo, perché non so se ancora fa il fotografo, ma è ancora dei nostri per fortuna, tale Giampiero G. Pelusi, fotografo della rivista XXX Skateboard, che fu il primo a fotografare i primi skateboarders di Roma, arrivando fino a Johnny, arrivando fino a Gaspari Gentile, fino a proprio le eccellenze, a Papic, Mirai, i skateboarders forti di Roma, e fu il primo fotografo a essere il fotografo ufficiale di determinate band dell'hardcore romano, e quello che fece le prime foto a Noi Colle, ai Corveleno, Arpiotta, ai Flaminio. Quindi sia in America che in Italia è curioso scoprire che un fotografo che nasce dallo skate in realtà poi fa da collante, da punto di congiunzione fra due culture spesso diverse, ma che in realtà facevano parte di quel sottobosco underground alternativo che attirava un po' tutti noi. Quindi è vero, e io sono convinto che le prime videocassette di video di skate hanno messo nei writer l'idea di fare i video di quando andavano a bombare. Sono convinto che vengano prima dallo skate e poi sono passati ai writers, ma è un'idea mia che mi possono anche smentire. Però i video skate erano importantissimi, erano queste videocassette che giravano, ci hanno proprio acculturato a noi.
I want to say, I like this guy. He makes good points. For real, this guy, give me a hand. The Warriors was also my favorite movie. Yeah. Something that I can't forget. We can't talk about movies in hip hop if we don't talk about Nas' Time is Illmatic. He has an incredible documentary. That's probably one of the best ones.
Yes. Yeah? Time is Illmatic, Stretch and Bobbito.
Stretch and Bobbito.
The best documentary about
Yeah.
underground hip hop reality they give birth to.
I'll tell you about Stretch and Bobbito's documentary. When we did Versatility 3 Rewind, Stretch and Bobbito is in our documentary.
Okay.
And we had some particular footage. So we kind of coordinated our releases. They said, let us do our film, and then that'll make it, a little leakage over for when you guys do your film, and we kind of like coordinate the releases behind that. But I love what they did, and footage that we have in Versatility 3 Rewind, this is interesting, is the first time they spoke to each other, sat in a room and did an interview in like, I don't know, like 10
or
15 years. We had the first time that they sat together in the same room. Our footage is when they were beginning the process of doing that film.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But that's Versatility 3 Rewind for you guys. But it goes to say that, because this question keeps coming up, about hip hop. And obviously hip hop is a culture. That's what it is. It's a community. It's a community of people. So it's not hard to bump into these guys depending on where you are. If Stretch and Bobbito was in Italy right now, they would think, I need to be here because that's where my community is. So you go to different places and it's kind of like you're looking for your family members. Where's it at? Where is it popping at? It's a community. And, I did the movie WVOE, The Voice of Ebony, it's about African American ownership in radio. Okay. Versatility 3 Rewind, I just explained. And people say, why are you making these documentaries? What gave you the idea to make the documentary? And, depending on the setting that I'm in, it's kind of like depending, on the answer. But here's the thing. Once upon a time, there was this place called the Car Wash. So when you talk about the 90s, in New York, there was this place called the Car Wash. The Car Wash was where you go when you wanted to know if you rap good enough. You go on stage. Every rapper that you can ever think of to make a record is in the Car Wash at any point in time. I used to watch this very interesting dynamic that would happen between Busta Rhymes and KRS-One, because I can tell KRS-One was watching Busta Rhymes and Leaders of the New School, because they were becoming the shit in New York City. Yeah. And I can remember the day when KRS-One decided at a particular show to make a point that I'm the fucking man. I'm KRS-One. And I enjoyed that dynamic, time will tell, but the Car Wash, they failed at the documentary from what I understand. I've never saw a Car Wash documentary.
There is no something that...
There was something that somebody was working on that didn't work. Okay. It didn't work. And I don't know all of the information, but there's no Car Wash documentary. There's a place, the saddest thing, there's a place called 5 Points. Mm-hmm. It used to be. It's gone now. It's in New York. It's 5 Points was, especially if you're into hip hop and graffiti, was like a mecca, like a holy place. It was graffiti on all of the walls, on all of the floors, and you can walk around and just see incredible, incredible art. And some bastard, out of spite, decided to paint over it. But guess what? There's no movie on 5 Points. And 5 Points matters to the culture. Car Wash matters to the culture. The fact that you guys even heard of it lets me know how special it is, because I'm in a whole different country talking about it. This guy's in Costa Rica and he knows about it. Spain, Italy, the Car Wash, 5 Points, they matter. And what happened? Was it because someone was waiting for someone else to do the documentary? Could it be that? Or maybe the business didn't get done? I don't know what happened. So when I see certain things and I feel like we can't wait for someone else to tell our story, like Giulia was saying at the beginning of the show, We have to tell our story, and we can't wait for someone else to do it. So that's the real reason, why, I do some of the things. Also, I know Rob has something to say, but I wanted to talk about those big boxes.
Yeah, the boom box.
I have a theory about the boom boxes. No one was buying those boom boxes.
Yeah.
Nobody was buying those boom boxes. Our parents were buying those boom boxes. And I think it's because, like, my parents had vinyl in the house. They had this little stash of records, and they would play them around the house, and it's what I heard on the radio, and I didn't hear anything different. And then one day, I just came, and there was this big, giant box in my room. So now, I'm like, okay, so what am I supposed to do with this? And, my mom is like, listen to the radio or whatever. So I magically discover Mr. Magic and Red Alert. And I realized that this box has 2 cassette tapes that I can kind of like do the pause button, so that when I hear something good on the show, I can make one tape of each show, but it's the tape that I want, the songs that I want, whatever I've been waiting to hear. And I realized, the reason why I wanted to tell you about these boxes. A lot of you older guys or a lot of the younger guys, people think, the music today is trash, blah, blah, blah. The younger guys, they don't know how to do it. The music is different now, blah, blah, blah. When I was younger, doing the pause button, I wouldn't have had to do the pause button if every song was great.
I know.
Every song was not great. I know. It was a lot of bullshit I had to listen to finally get the song that I actually wanted to record.
And when you do your own mixtape, if you make a fault, you have to start again.
Right.
From the starting point, and it was.
So when you develop that skill of putting a nice pause tape together, and you come to school the next day and you say, hey, everybody, check this out, that was one of the determining factors of whether or not you were cool or not. If your pause tape was good, you must know something. Let's keep this guy around. If your pause tape is garbage, get this guy out of here. So that had something to do with it, and you might make some money if you can sell it. So I think the cassette technology came into our parents' lives. They bought us those boxes. The same way CDs came along, the same way streaming came along. I think that's what happened, because I've never heard anyone say, I bought a boombox. I've always heard people say, I had one.
But even because in mid-80s, Walkman came out, so people start listening music in the streets using Walkman. In the Beastie Boys book, one of them tell the story that when they go out in the afternoon to take just a trip in New York City, they have these big pants with 5 or 6 music cassettes in each pocket, because you don't know which music you want to listen in all the day. So you have to go out of your home with at least 20 different cassettes. And he tells, now it's more easier. Now I got Spotify, or I got a smartphone with all the music I want. In the past, you have to stack all this cassette in your backpack, in your pocket, and so.
Yeah, it was a heavy thing that you had to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was hard work to listen to music.
It was real hard work. Yeah. I mean, one of the things, it was just kind of like finding new groups, because the thing about it is, it was a lot of work back then finding the good artists. It's going to be work now finding the good artists. It's really not that much different. The music sounds a little different here and there, but, obviously. But the thing is finding like a good artist and then meeting your friend and then having an artist like better than the one he's about to introduce you to in a minute was always a thing. That was always a fun thing, too, because I might have a guy that I'm like, yo, you got to hear this guy. This is dope. And then, he listens to it, and he's like, yeah, that's cool. But check this guy out. Yeah. That was a little competition, too, with the pause button. Yeah, we used to do that. If you, you go to Spotify or Tidal, listen to Ron Valor, love it, introduce your friend to it. You'll be cooler to your friend tomorrow than you are today. Ron Valor, listen to that. But that was the thing. That's what, I kind of feel like the game was. And some people complain maybe about the sound of the music, but to be honest with you, I would love to see a cool documentary on the Migos.
Yeah.
I would love to see, I want to know what Little Baby was really up to.
Watched, right now a good documentary about Jewish word that I didn't know nothing about.
See?
And I enjoyed. I enjoyed to know more about him.
Yeah.
Even if it's not my piece of cake, speaking in music terms, but I watched this documentary and I found interesting his story, his character, the artist behind the music. So sometimes these movies, documentary help people to understand better the music than they listen, because understand the story behind the music and the artists that make the music.
Yeah, I enjoyed seeing the Migos in Narcos.
Yeah.
And I wish that they would let, I think they're doing a new version of Marcos. I'm not sure where, it's someplace or whatever. I think it's with El Chapo or something. But I wish that they would let Federico direct one episode so that we can get this part of, because Narcos is so interesting when you see that they had the new Jordans came out and they were talking about Scarface. Scarface is hip hop, whether we want to say anything about it. You see what I'm saying?
I wanted to say that there are movies that don't have nothing to do with hip hop.
That's what you were saying earlier,
but came into hip hop.
Right.
Scarface is the perfect example because we have one of the biggest rapper in the hip hop history named Scarface after the movie. Raekwon gave birth to the mafioso rap styles.
Incarcerated Scarfaces.
Yes, like Cool G Rap. So
Rap.
A lot of mafia movies gave something to the hip hop culture. It's weird, but it's so.
Yeah. So but I enjoyed Federico's work so much, and the thing that I think about it is that from a community perspective, you guys are doing it. Well, in Costa Rica and the way they're doing hip hop is the natural order, the natural way that it works. Because, we know that hip hop started in the Bronx. Kool Herc is a cool guy. I met him a bunch of times. He's great. But it's the same concept. It's kind of like, if you can imagine Kool Herc looking around at the gangs in the neighborhood, probably from the Warriors, and saying, I know everyone doesn't want to participate in that. If you want to come to my house, I'm going to throw a party, and you don't have to worry about that. Now, I don't know about what you got to do to get here or what you got to do to walk home, but when you're here, we're going to do hip-hop, and we're going to, enjoy ourselves. And that's what Kool Herc, was doing. And now that we have that knowledge, we have the culture, we have the direction, we have the understanding, there can be 1,000 Kool Hercs across the planet because not everyone wants to participate in gang culture or even at home adversity or anything that they feel like, that's not what they are. They don't feel that way on the inside. They feel like they're part of this thing, So, from that standpoint, providing, it's almost, it's almost a community outreach. I don't know if you guys are into like battle rap. I'm very into, I love battle rap. It's one of the things I enjoy. Rob is doing,
Sorry, bro. Come on, man. You got pass the
well,
mic up.
let
We got the
Rob
people
tell
here,
you
too.
about what he's doing with GTX. But I just want to say this real quick. battle rap is the same thing now. So we just transform him. Tell them what you're doing, because I really enjoyed it and I want to know more.
Yeah, so, almost like Maddie, so. So, something else I do too is I work with NFTs. I work with a company called Band Royalty. I'm the CCO of the company. And with the NFTs, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's a new technology and it's going to work great with movies right now too, because it's the next phase. We started the first hip-hop battle league with NFTs called GTX with Lush One and Disaster. We actually, between Lush One and with the Disaster and Assassino, put together the very first international hip-hop battle. We got 1.2 million views the first day on Red Bull 2 days ago. That was our battle. That was Lush One and Disaster GTX. Yep. 2 weeks ago we did that. And that's the first hip-hop battle ever that's going to be NFTs. So it should be coming out, I think, next week, the actual NFTs. So if you guys aren't familiar with it, Band Royalty, let me know. I can tell you all about it. They actually help bring me out here as well, too. It's one of my sponsors. A shout out to Band Royalty. But that's kind of the next evolution of films, too, is anything going on. Like right now, the distribution is in, obviously, films, television, stuff like that. But as far as NFTs, that's the next evolution where you actually own a piece of it. As you guys here can buy a piece of it and own it and resell it and make money off of it. But Giulia, I know you wanted to ask a question. What was the?
Yeah. So no, the thing I wanted to ask you is like, how gets to you the information of how hip hop is lived in the other countries, because you are in the homeland of hip hop, and so the movies get to you in a different way. And every episode that now you had from different countries, you see there is a different way in which movies or music let the different scene starts. So did you know that, or maybe you don't know?
No, I mean, I had an awesome opportunity to judge the music video category. And even though I have the TV networks, we get videos submitted all over the world for music videos. I've never seen so many different cultural videos from Costa Rica, from everywhere, and different languages. And it was like, wow. And like looking at the cinematography effects, looking at the background, looking at the environments, it's like, I've never seen this before. This is incredible. So then coming here and seeing some of these movies, it's just like, it's eye-opening, because, we're used to our culture. And the thing about where we are, it's the birthplace of it. Yeah, the thing is we get so much fed to us. Like, I think the difference is when you come from like Rome, you're in Costa Rica, you're stretching the grab from America. It keeps getting shoved down our throat every day. So that's why we're not looking outside so much, because there's already so much right here, we don't feel the need. I think that's why when we have something like this film festival, it's a great opportunity, because now it gives us an opportunity to see the different cultures, how they live, and hear these stories, either verbally or through film, which we never get the opportunity because, and it's, we can always just look, but again, there's so much shoved down our throat. Again, I was the first hip hop company verified on YouTube, way back. We're the first ones to monetize off of it. So we were first putting content up on YouTube like crazy. And so I have a broker who told me stop. He said, stop doing it, because he said, you're giving away your stuff for free. So why would you do that? I can make you money off your content. So I stopped putting stuff on YouTube. And then that's when MagTV, my hip hop show, I was trying to get a place in America. Nobody wanted it because it's all major networks. My first network was on Sky TV in Europe, 120 million households. I broke my US hip hop TV show in Europe. And then after I broke in Europe, I brought it back to the U.S. Then it got picked up on national network on U.S. But I had to, I guess they're looking for me to prove myself, which is weird. But yeah, that's how it happened. Because again, there's so much. Like U.S., we already know, especially in New York, all the artists are from there. Like, we already know these guys. We don't want to see them. We know who they are already. But I guess that's what helped break me internationally. And then I did what happened, I started with a DVD magazine first, the DVD magazine, and that's how the TV show got picked up from Sky. 2005, I put out the hip hop, this one right here, in 2005, and this became such a huge DVD overseas. This is the first one that's on Netflix and Blockbuster, but overseas it got so big. That's when I got the email from this channel called In Sky that said, hey, can you make this to a TV show? And I had no idea how to do it, because I actually had someone that filmed and edited. I just kind of I guess I was a producer at that time. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just doing interviews. And I was all excited, and I told him, I was like, yo, the opportunity to make it a TV show. And he's like, oh, I'm moving to Vegas tomorrow. So I'm like, yo, you can't. Like, I got an offer to make this a TV show. So I said, before you leave, come to my house. This was for Final Cut 3. I said, install Final Cut 3 on my computer. He said, you're not going to be able to learn it. I said, listen, I sat with you while you made this whole DVD. I told you what to press, what to do. I worked with Babyface before that. I was a songwriter, so I know how to use Logic. So like, I'll figure it out. So this is before YouTube. So I bought Final Cut for Dummies and taught myself how to edit on Final Cut 3. And next thing you know, is this DVD came out, and then after that, it became the biggest TV show in the world, with the TV side. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I think we can speak like for 10 hours at least. Time is running. Even if we are over time, we can speak a little bit more. Maybe if there are questions from the public, could be...
I have gifts whoever has questions, so make sure you want to ask questions, trust me.
Ci sono delle domande, dei punti, delle cose insomma che va a qualcuno nel pubblico di esporre. Siamo ovviamente fuori tempo, però le proiezioni stanno andando avanti, abbiamo ancora un margine magari di una ventina di minuti che ci possiamo ricavare. Vai. E anzi, non puoi andare perché ti devo dare questo.
Ciao a tutti. Allora, abbiamo parlato dei film, ma invece per quanto riguarda i telefilm o gli show televisivi, che cosa possiamo dire?
So, you want to get... Okay, I'll do it real quick. You just got to be careful. Like, for example, like, say the Wu-Tang show, right? You guys seen the Wu-Tang show? A lot of that stuff is fiction. I don't know if you guys realize that. Like, there's a scene with Just Ice that never happened ever. Just Ice is my homie. He was so mad. They never told him. He was so mad. Yeah, he was so mad. I talked to Just Ice last night. He hit me up. Yeah, but and that was one of the problems that some of the Wu-Tang members had from that show, is a lot of stuff was fiction. So if you do make a TV show, then that's the thing people have been putting into it, like, you know, but there are a lot of great series. Like, I still enjoyed it. It was still a good show. You know, it was like, it reminded me of The Wire. I don't know if you guys ever seen The Wire, but it reminded me of, like, The Wire.
The Wire is like Scarface, something
yeah, it was,
that influenced
and now the new one's out now.
The characters.
There's a new one out now. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know.
We own the city. Yeah. So, but as far as hip hop TV, so I mean, Netflix has put out some good documentaries on hip hop, which is great. So they're out there. But if you're gonna make a series, you have to understand, like, you know, if it's a 6-part series, all 6 have to be good. So that's the thing, is like, you can't just put everything in the first one and try to drag out the rest, even though the first one's probably what's going to sell the deal. So if you're looking for it, and the good thing about television is there's so many options to put it out now, whereas back in the day there wasn't. So now between Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, Tubi, all these different, I know what's out here, but there's so many places in the U.S. as far as outlets, and you can always self-distribute yourself. Amazon Prime, you can put up yourself if you wanted to, you know, or even if it's just YouTube, whatever it may be, but yeah.
C'è stata una serie che hanno interrotto la prima stagione, che non era brutta, che si chiamava The Breaks, con tutta la musica fatta da DJ Premier, e raccontava il rap a cavallo fra l'80 e i 90, con la storia proprio della Tommy Boy, un artista, e c'è Method Man che fa il padre di 2 ragazzini che vogliono fare rap, però lui non vuole, gli dice che cos'è questa cosa del rap, no? Quindi anche... però l'hanno interrotta la prima stagione, io avevo rimediato i primi episodi ed era una serie interessante, nel senso che comunque cercava di farti vedere un po' da dentro il mondo dell'industria discografica. Però proprio serie TV Atlanta, sicuramente Atlanta è una serie che comunque l'hip hop c'è, nel senso lo senti. Sì.
La mia domanda era più
microfono. Vedi, per fortuna Kwanzaa.
La mia domanda era più una curiosità rispetto a ciò di cui parlavamo prima, cioè quei telefilm dove c'era un pizzico di pop ma non esplicitamente. Posso pensare a Willy il principe di Bel-Air, esatto.
Yeah, they just remade it. Did you watch the new one? Yeah. Is that what you're talking about?
L'hanno rifatto.
Ah, sì, sì.
So that's from Philadelphia. That's where I'm at. So I was good friend. I was good friends with his dad. He passed away 3 years ago. But I used to go to his dad's house. So I know Will Smith's dad. I know but Will Smith, it was interesting because growing up in Philly, like when he first came out with Rock the House, Brand New Funk. Do you know Brand New Funk? By Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince?
Okay, sì.
To me, that was one of the best hip-hop songs at that time. Then it went to the Parents Don't Understand, Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble, more comical. But Brand New Funk was, to me, one of the best DJ MC songs back and forth. No, that was the second album. The first album was called Rock the House. Yeah, and Brand New Funk was on the, yeah. It was like, because Philadelphia was known for their DJs. We had the best DJs. New York had the best rappers. But Philly, we had the DJs. It's Cash Money. Now you had the old, but now you created the scratch. But we perfected it.
We have no time to
We
start
did the
yet,
Transformers scratch. We started the Transformers scratch.
DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yes, and Cash Money.
DJ
Cash
Jazzy
Money.
Jeff is
Number
your
one.
best DJ.
Cash Money.
And I'm going to tell you right now,
DJ
DJ
Cash Money.
Jazzy Jeff, I love you.
Jazzy Jeff,
Jazzy
too.
Jeff, I love you. But we know what happened, and here's the rumor. I'll leave it as a rumor. But we think that when you did that scratch that made you famous, LL Cool J is hard as hell. Battle anybody. You remember that? My DJ, Prince Paul, that's where you got that from. So you got the best DJs. But we're going to tell the truth here.
I don't know about that one.
Church, say amen. Nah, but I love your DJ. Philly got the greatest DJ. They got really good DJs. We love that. We just love telling that story because Prince Paul is our guy. But you know, they all went their separate directions.
That's how the MCs we had to do.
Right.
I owe you a prize. I got you.
I have a question for. I have a question also. It's more like a question, but also like if you can like, I want to hear your opinion on this because it's very interesting what you guys were saying about how like hip hop became universal, but since you guys in the Mecca, you don't listen to the outside stuff because you're like so much happening over there. But at the same time, for example, like I noticed that United States is always about the new young artist, like whatever's hot. So some of the legends sometimes it's not as appreciated, and they go tour, they make their money when they come to Europe, Latin America, and other parts of the world, Japan. So, and also like I hear, like studying the story of hip hop, like for example, like when breakdancing came out, I hear people like, for example, Cantu in Germany saying like, when I saw this movie, and like so many people in the world, because of the documenting of the early stages of hip hop, that's what made hip hop become like worldwide. So, and the fact that it became worldwide helped hip hop survive in the United States as well. And I want to know your opinion on, like, for example, like all the legends, like, have to go to all the rest of the world to like make the money. How can we, or if there's a possibility, or you think like in United States, to make the rest of the world go to United States as well, like our artists or people in Europe, and be appreciated by the U.S. culture like that, or you think like that's not gonna happen, or what you think about that?
That's a great question, man. And I have a lot of the big hip hop legends are signed to me for distribution. I have a lot of them signed to me. And, you know, I study sales all day. Like, I study Spotify streams, how they're streaming, what's streaming, why. We are thankful for everybody overseas because you guys love hip hop more than a lot of people in the United States love hip hop. And you guys are what keep these legends touring and keeping money in their pocket. Because in the U.S., first of all, they're all there. So it's harder to book because there's so many of them. So everyone's trying to, and the promoters out there, they're nickel and dime everybody. They're trying to get them as cheap as possible. So they don't really give these artists what they deserve. So I hear these stories all the time from my artists when they go overseas, how it was the best time of their life. They tour, they don't want to come home. The fans, and they do a show that maybe 2,000 people, they come home, they do a show that maybe 50. You know, and it's sad. But then again, everyone in the US is like, oh, we've seen this guy 20 times already. Or you got to think about that too. We grew up on these people, but so I want to thank all of you guys for supporting hip hop the way you guys do, because I wish we had more of that support in the US with some of the older artists. Even when it comes to the music, the new stuff. A lot of them don't want to drop new music because they're scared. Because what if you come out and nothing happens, which happens a lot of times. I don't know if you guys notice everyone starts dropping these surprise albums all of a sudden. Oh, all of a sudden we drop an album today, won't tell anybody, it's a surprise album. The reason they do that is because they're scared to act like it's a real promoted album and have it fail. This way they could always say, oh, there was no promo behind it. It gives them an excuse for it. So a lot of people are dropping surprise albums now so they don't feel like they failed, because it's a different game. The old school artist, you got to remember, if you're a rapper from the 80s and 90s, your fan base is your age. And a lot of them would buy records. They don't know Spotify. A lot of them don't use Spotify. So they don't understand the dynamics of it, playlisting. So the younger artists win. Now back to the booking agents. The booking agents in the US, their whole thing is we got to fill a place. So if these guys are on Instagram, the younger guys, and they have 20, 30,000, 100,000 followers, they can reach all their people. If it's an older rapper, we have to do all the work. So let's book these younger guys just because we know we can fill the place, charge them at the door, make our money, because their job isn't impressing the artists or making the artists feel good. Their job is to make money. So that's just the mentality of the promoter. So you got to remember that. So as far as bringing artists to America, I mean, it's hard, especially if there's a language barrier. You know, I know over there, you guys, when I first watched the documentary on Wu-Tang, you're talking, I think they're in China, and everyone knew every single word to a Wu-Tang song in America. It blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, that blew my mind. And I realized, like, yeah, even if the people don't speak American, they can still, they'd still listen to the words and know all the words. We're lazy. They don't do that. I'll be honest with you. You know, like what I just tell you at the end of your movie, the song during the trailer, during the credits. I said I wanted that song. I tried to Shazam it, it wasn't coming up, and it wasn't. I don't speak Spanish, you know, but I wanted that song. I'm like, this song is so dope. It's like, but I like listening to, you know, and back to Latins and hip hop, where you guys are talking about Beat Nuts and Big Pun. I think the Latin MC they always had their piece in New York, man. But Big Pun was always my favorite. You know, and Beat Nuts were always my favorite. Like, I've known everything. Beat Nuts actually changed my life. There's a whole story behind that I want to get into. But Latin hip hop, man, I think there was the best MCs were Latin hip hop artists. So, it's tougher. I mean, I wish we could bring more international artists over to the U.S. because it just, again, it's like if you're doing a show, who's going to come? Well, we did the Assassino when, you know, thanks to Indy for bringing this up, the Assassino battle versus Disaster. I mean, we knew it was going to be a follow-on because we know Assassino is so big in Mexico. He's like the biggest. Yeah, so to bring him, we brought him to L.A., had him battle Disaster. And again, we got 1.2 million views on YouTube in a day. And that place, I have video on my phone. I can show you some of the video if you guys want to see it later. When I was filming from my phone, that everybody went crazy for Assassino. Everyone screaming, and it was it was 3 rounds. The first round was English versus English, so Assassino had to rap in English. The second round was Spanish versus Spanish, so Disaster had to rap in Spanish. And the third round was Spanglish. You just go back and forth. And it's the first time that's ever been done, period. So we set the culture with international battle rap. Yeah, so always trying to raise the bar. So we're glad if that helped bring something to America. But there needs to be more stuff like that where for an overseas artist to come, it has to work well with someone in America so they can come and do it together.
It's happening with the reggaeton, but not with the hip hop.
Yeah.
That's the business answer. But I remember being in California for probably like a week straight every day. We only listened to one song. This is for my vatos. We didn't speak any Spanish. We didn't know what they were saying. I didn't care. It was dope. The beat was dope. We listened to it for like the whole week straight. So, and then, with stuff that Rob is doing, those rappers should communicate with the other rappers on record. You'll be surprised. You talk to Eminem or talk to whoever on your record and then listen to the next Eminem records to hear a response. Try that.
So who was chi aveva la domanda che prima ho saltato? Eri tu, Mirko? No, chi ha? Nessuna domanda?
In English. Anybody have any questions?
Okay, because this is...
I got presents for everybody.
Oh,
I got
okay.
gift
This is
bags.
good and bad at the same time, but anyway. Allora io volevo ringraziare tutti. Thank you everybody. So
Thank you. Now remember...
Alle 8:30 speriamo di essere puntuali, avremo la cerimonia di premiazioni, sotto stanno continuando le proiezioni, quindi andate a vedere gli ultimi film che sono rimasti e grazie a tutti per la partecipazione, questa era l'ultima conferenza di quest'anno e ci vediamo l'anno prossimo.
And before you guys leave, you guys sign my poster too, man. Before you guys leave.